I'm attorney Martin Nicholson from the law office of Martin Nicholson, also known as the Battery Man. And I'm here today to talk about day number 11 of the Jonathan Majors jury trial. Yes, I've been covering this for 11 days now. And today is the day that jury deliberations began. They start off with the closing arguments. The prosecution gave a closing, the defense gave a closing. Then the jurors were given instructions to follow the law before they were told to go ahead and deliberate. The alternate jurors had to be separated from the six. So there's two that are separated during the deliberations. They did not get to finish. So they're going to come back tomorrow around 2:00, 2:15 tomorrow afternoon, Friday, to finish the deliberations, potentially finish deliberations, or they could go into the weekend or in the next week. They cannot reach a verdict. There were basically two competing narratives, two different stories. And that's why I'm wearing the Incredible Hulk shirt, because you have Bruce Banner and you have the Incredible Hulk. Two different personalities. And these were two different stories. Who is really the monster? Jonathan Majors said he was the monster. But is he really the monster? Or is he mild-mannered Bruce Banner? Or is she the monster? Grace Jabari, for lying and trying to ruin his career. If you remember the TV series of The Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner said, "You wouldn't like me when I get angry." Is this a situation where you would not like Jonathan Majors when he's angry, or you would not like Grace Jabari when she's angry? Two competing narratives. Who is the monster in this case? Now, we know through the evidence that all started because of the text message. And then she ended up grabbing the phone, and then this altercation ensued, and he ran from her. In the closing argument, the attorney for Jonathan Majors described Grace Jabari basically as a liar, a compulsive liar. She's someone that made this story, concocted this story of an abusive relationship for revenge after catching this text message, after seeing the text message that her boyfriend of almost 2 years was cheating on her. So she turned into this rage, into a monster, attacked Jonathan Majors by grabbing his phone and then running after him. This is kind of the story that they told in their closing. Revenge. Now, Jabari says that she chased after him because she wanted an explanation about these text messages. The defense says Jonathan was doing his best, that he was trying to escape Grace, and Grace kept attacking him, that this was him escaping, him trying to run away from this person that is attacking him. And then they had video footage, as you know, of her stopping next to a group of strangers, going out drinking, champagne, holding glass, all this kind of stuff like that. The video evidence really, as we know, did not line up with what she said. And the defense said that this was proof that she was unharmed following the incident. This was proof, this was video proof that she was unharmed. But the prosecutors, who said they actually got to do their closing argument first, and they also have the chance to do rebuttal. But the prosecution argued that Jabari had not discovered the extent of her injuries until the following morning. And at that point, when she discovered those injuries, she sent photographs of her bruised hand, and a cut to her friend. That's what the prosecutor argued. The prosecution also said this was not a revenge plot to ruin the defendant's life or career. What matters is what happened in the car that night. That's what the prosecution's arguing. Now, one of the other, I thought, very strong points of the defense in their closing argument is when the defense attorney said his fear, Mr. Major's fear, of what happens to a black man in America when he calls the police came true. Remember, this is the man that actually called the police, and then the police turn on him and arrest him. He's the one that put a blanket over the bottom half to keep her bottom half from showing. He didn't have to call the police, but he did. And I think the points that the defense made were on point, that they were excellent points to show that even though this may have been a toxic relationship, I don't think anybody can question that. And an incident did happen, that Jonathan Majors did not engage in this criminal activity as the state has charged. It just doesn't line up with the evidence. And I think the defense did a good job of pointing that out. You can believe what you want to believe, but look at what the video shows. And like I showed yesterday, how is it that she's out running around and chasing him and dancing, but then she wakes up the next morning and is stiff? If you remember, in Incredible Hulk, when Bruce Banner changes into the Hulk and goes into that fit of rage, he can't remember, depending on which Hulk version. I'm talking about going back to the original Hulk, not the gray Hulk, not the red Hulk, but the original green Hulk, would black out, turn into this monster, and could not remember. That has similarities to what may have happened in this case, where she is blacked out because she was drunk, fit of rage, and doesn't remember how she got injured. One of the things I do in closing argument is I come up with these kind of outlines. When you do a lot of jury trials, it's nice to have an outline. And I think of how this case can fit into this outline. If you think of people that play chess and they have different openings, different closings, I have different openings and different closings, and I title them. In my closing, I have the beef stew defense. I have the one-eyed man, the all-American family. And I label these, and then in those closings, I get in there and I talk about it. For instance, in this particular case, a closing could be what I call the one-eyed man. I'm going to tell you a story about a one-eyed man who walked around town with a patch over his eye. And people felt sorry for him because he had this patch over his eye because they thought he only had one eye. And then one day he fell. He tripped and fell, and the patch came off. And people said, "Hey, you have two good eyes. You have two good eyes. Why are you wearing that one patch over your eye?" And he said, "Because I did not want to see the world as it really is. I wanted people to feel sorry for me. So I put a patch over my eye so I could see the world the way I wanted to see it, and people would feel sorry for me." But what we did, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is we ripped that patch off the government's eye so they could get in there and they could see all the things they don't want to see, the things they don't want you to see. This is what we did in this case. That's just an example of how I could look at a case like this and say, hey, this kind of fits into my one-eyed man closing, because there's something that they don't want you to see, these holes in their story. They want you to feel sorry for the person. And that could be a type of closing that you could use in a case like this. Now, we have entered into the last round of this case. It was a doozy. They were duking it out, in a sense. They were fighting out in the courtroom. And I anticipate the jurors are going to have a verdict tomorrow, Friday. They're going to have a verdict. And we're going to find out who's the greatest. In this case, did the prosecution get a knockout, or did the defense get a knockout? And in my opinion, I think in this case, with what I've seen and read and heard so far, that the defense should be considered the greatest with a knockout. And that's your Nicholson Nugget of the day. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And once again, thank you all for watching.